stop by their location in Roseville off Lexington Avenue. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. In the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. And in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Wednesday. Jeff Stein will join us coming up here in a little bit. We also, we got a full day today. We have got coming up from the play Broomstick over at the Open Eye Theater. We're going to have both Cheryl Willis and Joel Sass joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. And then John Crippen from the Hennepin History Museum joins us in the 4 o'clock hour as well, because they've got an event coming up here next week. Brett is here with us today. Hi, Brett. How are you?
Hey, doing all right.
I am. This is. I'm going to have to do something here, because I need to do something here. To start off the show, because I just don't know any other way to do this. I am very grateful and happy that so many of you have welcomed me into your lives. I mean, really. I mean, I know me. I would have kept that door locked. But I'm very grateful that it'd be part of a lot of people's lives. And this is just a fun job to do. I enjoy doing it quite a bit. This is a job that I have found great reward with, great compassion, friendship, joy. How about I say it like that? Because I get to share things with you, and sometimes it's good things, like, yeah, I'm potty trained, or sometimes it's not so good things. I remember when, almost 2 years ago, when a drunk driver slammed into me and broke my back, and the outpouring of support and wealth and welcoming and warmth and all that good stuff I got from the listeners was incredible. Thank you very much. I still appreciate that greatly. I was talking to someone today about how I got into radio. And if you basically, I stumbled into it kind of, because I've said this a few times, and if you're in Chicago or Seattle, you might not get this. Cedric Adams is my great uncle, and Cedric Adams was a long-time, very respected, very well-known radio broadcaster up in the Twin Cities for many, many years. And he was my great uncle, and my dad always said that I had a lot of characteristics like Cedric, as far as, the gift of gab sort of thing. And that he encouraged me to get into radio and do these things. And I eventually fell into it through the military. And, because I was trained as what was called a radio and teletype operator, a 31 Charlie in the U.S. Army. And then they sold all of our equipment to the Spanish and the Greek. And so I was kind of unemployed while being employed by the U.S. Army, and eventually ended up at Armed Forces Radio Network in Nuremberg, Germany. And that was my first radio gig. And by God, I'll never have a bigger audience than that. I think because we broadcast into the old East Germany at that point. And so it's something like 35 million people were listening. And I'm like, hi, everybody. Here's a song from Jesus Jones. Hey, it's the early 90s. That sort of thing. I do have a lot of good traits, but I will say, I'm the youngest of 7 kids. Duncan, Jim, Chuck, Sue, Amy, Andrew, May. That's the line right there. I'm the youngest of 7. And although I think I'm somewhat funny, I'm not even close to the funniest one of us. Not even close. Not even close. As a matter of fact, I'd probably say I'm 5 or 6 on the list. But hands down, the funniest member of the McNeil clan was my brother, Jim. He's the second oldest. He passed away this morning of Parkinson's. He had been dealing with Parkinson's for many years. And it became clear in the last few months that his complications were becoming more and more too much for him to handle. I knew this was probably coming this week because I got a message that he was sleeping pretty much all day and was not eating. And at that point, there's a clock ticking. Jim is the funniest human being I've ever met in my life. Hands down. One of those people that you could tell a joke. You could tell a joke. I could tell a joke. Any of us could tell a joke and we'll get a, huh? He tells a joke and everyone laughed. Everyone uproariously laughed. I remember as a kid, and this was during Christmas, and we were out in Rhode Island. I was as a kid out there. And he saw my mom had gotten for Christmas from one of us. I think it was from my brother Andrew and myself, a pasta pot. And this is when they introduced the pasta pot with the built-in strainer, which seriously is like, how did it take that long to do that? How did it take that long? And it was a pasta pot, and he brought it out there. And my brother Jim noticed the photo that they put on the box. He goes, I wish I enjoyed eating pasta that much. And I just remember everyone laughing. My dad was laughing. My mom was in tears laughing. Everyone was laughing. And of course that's, kind of spurred more and more. And he did, kind of just kept everything going. And he was always like that. He was always a good spirit. When I would go fishing with him, he was always great stories. And, he was a good person to hang out with because, at that point, I don't have to entertain anyone. I could just be there and Jim would take care of all that bit. He was a good fisherman. I didn't hunt with him, but I fished with him a few times, and he was always a very good fisherman. I found out kind of the hard way that he had Parkinson's. He was here in the Twin Cities, and he came out to visit, and this is back in 2016. And we went out for dinner that night, and then I went out for breakfast the next morning with my oldest daughter. And while we were when we went out to dinner, and we were at a place called Kermanshek's here in town, he basically made the point. It's like, oh, the hotel room's doing well, but with my condition, it's there are some things I got to be careful with. And I'm like, condition? And I remember calling at that point my mother and my father and saying, Jim's got a condition, and they said, yes, he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. I'm like, okay. That is a condition. He lived, when I was a kid, and I'm quite a bit younger than him. As the youngest, he was the second oldest. He was pretty much out of the house when I was just a little kid. And he spent he was born in northern Minnesota, but he spent most of his life in New England, particularly in the Maine area. He lived in the suburbs of Portland, Maine for many years, and he was up in a town called Blue Hill, Maine. He's just kind of a consummate New Englander, a consummate Minnesotan too. He really was. Just a great guy that enjoyed the outdoors and all that good stuff. And, it does not surprise me that he ended up in Maine, because if you've ever been to Maine, parts of Maine are a lot like northern Minnesota, where it's not a lot of people, but very pretty. It gets cold, but, he spent a lot of time up there. He had a successful business, has a daughter, my niece. I last saw him in 2019. Early that year, my dad had a stroke in late 2018, and I went down to visit him, and my brother Jim happened to be down there at the same time. And so it was a chance for us to catch up and see how he was doing. And as a matter of fact, it was kind of nice because it was, not often the sixth oldest, my brother Andrew, he's down there. He's down in South Carolina, and that was where my parents were living. So it was, three of us together, which, now that I'm in 55, I turned 56 in about a week. It was nice to get the three of us together. And then I did see him that summer as well at the memorial for my father after he had passed away in 2019. And, it was, it was just really wonderful to see him. I was hoping to get a chance to see him one more time. I was hoping to possibly get out there and visit with him, but his condition had deteriorated to a point where it really just wasn't, a feasible idea. I'd be flying, all the way to Logan, driving 6 hours north, and, basically seeing him for 10 minutes at a pop at best. He's the funniest man I ever met. I wish I was as funny as him. I will make this one plea for everyone out there, and I'm not going to get into details. It doesn't involve me per se, because I did have a chance, at least on Sunday, to have a quick conversation with him. His Parkinson's was making communication pretty difficult. But I did have a communication with him and gave him an update on the kids and all that stuff. But one thing, if I can plead with you, implore you, beg you, is to not be foolish enough to think that you can put off saying the things that need to be said, making amends with who you need to make amends with, seeing the people that you want to see before the end. I don't want to get into the details of it, but there's lost opportunity that happened here with some of the family members, and I imagine it's going to be incredibly tough for them to have to live with the consequences of that. And I think, we actually up in here in Minnesota have a case of a Minnesota state senator who is alleged to have broken into her mother-in-law's place because of, the feeling that there were things that from her father who passed away that she was owed. And it's a thing. But it brought up an interesting point, is that you need to have conversations with people, because you can't have that conversation once that person is gone. And so if I can give you one bit of advice, is do not leave things unattended, and take care of what you need. I was going through photos today. I'm going to miss him a lot. I hadn't seen him that much, but I remember him through the years, and I'm going to miss him a lot. Still the funniest man I've ever met, my brother Jim. I'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
If you've made the decision to level your home and build new, or to renovate, hire Better Futures Minnesota to take it apart by hand. Think before you scrap. Think of the energy and greenhouse gases saved by diverting what can be reused and recycled from the landfill. Better Futures Minnesota can do it for you. Hennepin County residents and public entities, there are funds available to make the environmentally right thing to do comparable to demolition. Check out betterfuturesminnesota.com. That's betterfuturesminnesota.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Hey, it's Freddie Bell, host of New Beginnings, designed for those of us more seasoned, I'll say, with informative talk on everything from health, finance, local and regional news, volunteerism, spirituality, and even a bit of humor tossed in. So if you're proud to be a more seasoned listener, tune in to New Beginnings Sunday afternoons at 1 right here on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, AM 950.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk show airing every Saturday from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights you need to know to live and age well. Each week, we talk with guests who provide answers to important questions regarding healthcare, elder care, end-of-life care, and self-care for caregivers, and help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 on AM 950 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. Stein here in 12 minutes or so. We do have to talk about Hurricane Milton. This is still a very scary storm. It is currently still a Category 4 storm, and there's a decent chance that it's going to be somewhere close to right on the border of Category 3, Category 4 when it hits Florida tonight, sometime around midnight. They're saying they're kind of there. And by the way, I learned something about hurricanes today. Is that I was there a meteorologist, a guy named Sven Sundgaard, who's follows weather. He basically made this point. He said, if it gets up to a Category 5 and has a tidal surge of a Category 5, that tidal surge doesn't go away. That's going to be there. So you are going to have a tidal surge of a Category 5 hurricane, regardless of even if it gets down to a Category 3, because it's just the water is there. It's built up. I did not know that. It's closing in on Florida's west coast, is expected to make landfall as an extremely dangerous major hurricane late tonight or early tomorrow morning, the National Hurricane Center said. Milton has maximum sustained winds of nearly 155 miles an hour with stronger gusts, poses a dire threat to the densely populated zone that includes Tampa, Sarasota, and Fort Myers, as well as damaging hurricane-force winds. Coastal communities face a life-threatening storm surge, the center said. Already Florida governor, if you've lost Governor DeSantis, Trump and Republicans, I got news for you. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has warned people to be skeptical of misinformation and inflammatory claims about the response to Hurricane Milton, including a post on Twitter claiming FEMA would prevent people from returning to their homes. That post drew more than 1 million views. Nice job, Elon Musk, as designed. Mission accomplished. And as DeSantis' aide said, it endangered the lives of Floridians and first responders. DeSantis said he would ensure Floridians had the right to return to the home in the storm, except in rare emergency circumstances such as an active rescue mission. Be careful about the nonsense that gets circulated, and just know that they are more titillating it is, the more likely someone is making money off of it. They really don't give a damn about the well-being and safety of the people who are actually in the eye of the storm. I will say Laura Trump was on Fox, and they're just, the campaign now is just basically lie about everything, because she's putting out these lies, just lies about the Hurricane Helene response in North Carolina, and basically saying there's dead babies floating down the river and nobody's stopping it. And even the Fox News host said, where are you seeing it? And her response, which Fox News accepted, is, well, somebody said it. And okay. It's interesting. If you look at a lot of the misinformation about North Carolina, it's actually coming from people nowhere near North Carolina. These rumors and lies are initiating. There's some guys, it's guys like the Bundy clan out in the West, just out there to make up lies to, basically get people to distrust the government, which they need right now. The good news is, like I said earlier this week, there's a lot of Republicans who this constant lying about what is going on they're on the ground there. It's not helping them. It's helping Trump with places like Wyoming, where he doesn't really need much help, or Idaho, or in the reddest parts of Texas, where they want to believe everything evil exists on the other side. But with Republicans in North Carolina, there's a lot of Republicans that are like, nothing you are saying is true. And even they are laughing at some of the AI-generated images of Trump trying to save people. That dude, if Donald Trump would do nothing to save any of you. He felt as if he was the great savior of Puerto Rico because he threw some paper towels at people. Although we now know that he actually intentionally and with design did not deliver the emergency relief to Puerto Rico, as Biden is delivering it to the southeastern United States, and will obviously deliver it towards Florida. And speaking of Biden, I did want to make sure I mentioned this because he specifically threw Marjorie Taylor Greene under the bus. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is continuing to spread misinformation about liberals controlling national disasters. Wow. Joe Biden on Wednesday told her to cut it out. Speaking in the nationally televised address on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the leaders pressed those in the path of Category 4 Hurricane Milton to take it seriously. Biden then directly hit Greene and former President Trump for lying about FEMA funds and other conspiracy theories. I want to thank the governors, Biden began. They stepped up. He quickly pivoted to all of this disinformation going on about how, we're devoting all this money to migrants. Biden cited even one congresswoman suggested I control the weather, implying that I'm sending it to red states. I mean, stuff off the wall. It's like out of a comic book. Yes, they can control the weather, said Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, she said that on October 3rd. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. You are an idiot. Well, no, this is by design. I want to remind people, this is the same woman who, when confronted with her own statements in a courtroom, sat there like the biggest ditz of all time and said, I don't recall. That was her defense, just saying, I'm a complete idiot. And the people in her district still voted for her again. That just tells you everything about a turnip could run with an R next to its name in that district and would still be smarter than Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, let's just be honest about it. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop, said Biden at one point in his comments. Biden said that he spoke with FEMA's administrator about Trump's claims and that people were getting a check for $750, and that's all they were able to get assistance. You lost everything and you get $750. They gave you an immediate what you need to get over the next day and to get a prescription or whatever, he said, stating that the amount was to cover desperately immediate needs and not the total amount of assistance affected areas can claim. So basically, you're getting $750. And as every Republican says, that's all they're giving you. That's a lie. They're giving all these people $750 so they can get through the next few days. And then they're sending in aid as well with FEMA. Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said that one of Trump's false claims is that FEMA staff on the ground will take people's land, which he is quick to say was not true, and such lies hurt those who are trying to help. Now, I want to make sure we understand something, and I'll talk a little bit with Stein about this as well, coming up in just a few minutes. There's method to the madness here. They don't want to talk about cats and dogs in Ohio anymore. They don't want to talk about Project 2025. They don't want to talk about, and I think a lot of this is trying to now, from this point forward, from yesterday to today, is them desperately trying to get he gave COVID tests to Vlad Putin when the United States citizens desperately needed them. They don't want to talk about those things. And so this is just classic Trump, classic right-wing MAGA, lie about everything, fill up the news cycle with so many lies that even if they fact check you, they're not going to talk about the things that really could hurt you. And the reality is the things that they're lying about, their base wants to be true so badly that they basically is going to believe it anyway. So that's where we're at right now. If you're lying about hurricane stuff, you are a horrible, horrible person. And all my best to the people in Florida coming up tonight. We'll take a break, come back with Stein. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hey, it's Tom telling you about how switching to all-energy solar is more realistic than you think. You might assume solar is too expensive or not practical for your home or business. The truth is, if you have an electric bill and good sun exposure on your property, solar energy can work for you. In addition to the 30% federal solar tax credit, many communities and utilities offer extra incentives to make solar even more affordable. Plus, solar isn't just for higher income households. There are now several low and middle income solar programs available. The experts at All Energy Solar can walk you through the entire incentive application process to make sure your savings are maximized. Make 2024 the year your solar dreams come true with All Energy Solar. Discover how solar panels can fit into your future and potentially eliminate your current utility bills. Get a free quote from All Energy Solar today to learn how easy and affordable solar energy can be for you. Visit allenergysolar.com to take the first step toward energy independence.
Join me, Tom Hartman, where smart people get their news. The Tom Hartman Program on AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Crooner's Supper Club invites you to enjoy drinks, a delicious dinner, and live music from both big-name local and national artists in a wide array of styles. Before or after your show, check out the new Maggie's Lounge, a perfect spot to visit with friends. It's open Wednesdays through Sundays beginning at 4:30 with cocktails and light fare. And you don't need a ticket to enjoy the great atmosphere of Maggie's. Crooner's Supper Club off Moore Lake and Highway 65, a little piece of old school nightlife in the 21st century.
My grandpa, Jim Warner, treated his customers like family. Warner Stellian is still doing that today. I'm Angela Warner, and to thank you for 70 years, Warner Stellian Appliance is offering unbeatable savings, like free dishwasher installation and no interest for 2 years with your Warner's card. Plus, go to warnerstellian.com for a $70 coupon you won't find anywhere else. These deals end October 16th, so hurry into one of our 10 Minnesota stores. You'll love your new appliances and Warner Stellian.
You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Tune in this Saturday morning right here on AM 950 for the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show from 7 to 8 a.m. We'll be discussing homemade snacks that you didn't know you could make, as well as there's more to pumpkins than pies and jack-o'-lanterns. Our guest is author and YouTuber Jill Mashiki will be with us, and we'll answer your garden questions. That's all this Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on AM 950. Tell a friend, and let's grow together.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 73. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 50. And Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 84. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or stop by their location in Roseville off Lexington Avenue. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff. J-E-F-F, Jeff.
Jeff Stein is our national and presidential expert, noted author. You can find his books at your favorite bookstore. You can also find them on totallyiowa.com. The Iowa Business Report, the Iowa Politics Report, to come to us via his home station, KXEL, Cedar Falls, Waterloo, where Jeff is currently located. Hi, Jeff.
Because I never leave.
You don't.
I really don't.
You're kind of like the anti-me. I barely show up. I mean, let's just be honest about it. But
now, there's something that I will say about you, and I'm just wondering how the new job with the regional chambers of commerce is going, because every time I look at the socials, there's Matt McNeil in front of something. Here's a playhouse. Here's a restaurant. Here's a park. And it's like, Mr. Twin Cities.
Oh, well, I try to get around. Well, I mean, or whenever I go out to Chicago or Seattle, wherever I go. I mean, when I was out in San Francisco, I had a blast out there. I'm kind of one of the, I'm a photogenetic, handsome man. Why not?
Now, I thought the reason why you were always seen out and about in the Minnesota area, in the Twin Cities, and by yourself is because your family said, isn't there somewhere you should go?
Yeah, usually it is. I'm definitely going to go with that. That's definitely part of the problem.
Did you just bust out with the brown-eyed handsome man lyric? No, that's going to be your new theme. It's going to be John Fogerty, and you're the brown-eyed handsome man.
Speaking of roaming places, you and I have talked about how badly Trump is managing his campaign at this point. He is going to the toss-up states of California, New York, and Colorado. What? Okay. I'm going to presume California and New York, because they're big enough cities, there's enough, conservatives there that they can do some fundraising. Colorado makes no sense. But he is quite literally, he's just wasting his time doing rallies in, out in areas where he has no chance at winning.
I have been, hunkered down here again, chained to the desk, but I did just see Trump announced that he's going to do a rally at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
Truly?
that's I can only imagine what the scene outside that place is going to be.
Well, and so here's the serious answer. Yes, it could be fundraising. I don't know so much in California. Maybe by doing something in New York, he might help down ticket Republicans in upstate New York. Maybe. But I think it's the Tucker Carlson complex, and here's why. And I know you follow Tucker around the country like you were a deadhead, right? You've got the tour t-shirt and the whole bit.
Who? Anyway.
The former evening anchor at the Fox News Channel. He's doing these arena shows and fleecing, making a lot of money, right? He's charging huge amounts of money so that you can sit there and watch Tucker Carlson on the stage, interviewing people ranging from Russell Brand to Bobby Kennedy to whomever. It is a cash grab. They were looking to do one in Iowa and then, get this, figured out the arenas weren't big enough for the haul that they wanted to make. So for a guy for whom crowd matters, why not fill up Madison Square Garden? That part is about ego. That part is about optics. It may not be about winning New York. It may be about the bandwagon approach. But again, look at how I had to grasp to come up with a valid reason, just like you did.
I've got two theories.
All right.
One is he is trying to plant the seeds, and there are a tremendous amount of Republican voters that honestly do think that he is going to win every state in the nation. They are convinced of this, and he is doing this because, you see, I was just in California in October, and I was favored to win that state by 20 points. It has nothing to do with reality. It's about kind of continuing to maintain this narrative of the far right that he can't possibly lose. The other side of it is that it is and forgive me, all of a sudden I went blank on it for a second. The other side of it is this. I talked about this last week, not necessarily with you, but on the air. I've talked about how there are stories out of like North Carolina and Eastern Georgia, where in these red areas, his rhetoric about FEMA and what's going on with this hurricane have not gone over well. And this constant lies. There are plenty of cases where Republican sheriffs and Republican county administrators and Republican governors are like, okay, none of this is happening. And he seems to be basically toxifying those regions against him, even in areas where he is popular. So what he's doing is he's just basically trying to find some place he can go where he can still say, oh, see, FEMA's doing horrible. Joe Biden hates these people, even though those people on the ground, that's not what's going on. And I don't think he wants to go down there and confront that.
There's something to that, but I would be more concerned if he started jumping on the bandwagon of the Washington can control the weather, and that's why this is happening. The MTG route, and a few other people who are saying, no, she's not crazy. I'm like, oh goodness. After decades of, peppering your local meteorologist with, hey, don't blame me. I can't change the weather. Well, apparently they can, according to those. I think a lot of this is, I don't know that the people in North Carolina are going to notice that he's in Madison Square Garden because, wait for it, they don't have energy, power, or a home. So therefore,
well, I don't think those rallies are so much for those people and the hurricane struck area.
The whole thing.
It's just basically to continue this narrative of, once again, his base. He can say anything and they believe it. They believe it emphatically. They believe it. This has been empirically proven. And so it's more about I think he would love to go to Western North Carolina and sit there on a destroyed street and have a rally there and talk about what's going on. But I think that considering how many Republicans have been like, okay, stop with this constant lie cycle. You're not helping us in any capacity. I think that so he's now forced to try to fill up Madison Square Garden, try to go. I think it's Coachella out in Los Angeles and California. He's going to be by there. Try to find some area where he can go and get a visual impact and continue the lies.
Well, at the very least, it's a continuation of an earlier approach, which is different now. And here's what I mean. He went to New York before, right? I mean, he got done in court and then did a rally in New York and, closed the boardwalk and, had a big rally. That was under the guise of, I'm not afraid to campaign anywhere because Joe Biden is so weak, I can win. Well, he's not running against Joe Biden now. And so is it, in fact, to your point, is it a waste of time to go to New York City when the toss-up states are, and you can name the 7, and depending on which poll you read, and I believe none of them, other than the fact that it's a close race. I like you, I don't know what the benefit is. The last time he went to New York and did something, he did a whole big media blitz again. Okay, fine. Again, some of it doesn't, it does not smack as being authentic. Let's put it that way.
Well, and you and I both know a candidate or a vice presidential candidate will fly into a town. It's off the radar. It's a private event over at someone's house. They make, I think in California, Walls made 2 appearances in the end of September, and it was $55 million total they took in there. You probably didn't hear about those until after the fact because that's kind of the nature of them. But that's not what he's trying to do here. And, people are saying you need to be in North Carolina. Florida is tightening up. Georgia is
don't go to Florida right now. Now's not a good time to go to Florida.
Well, and understandably, obviously with the hurricane stuff, but
sure.
Arizona and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin. I mean, we know the states he needs to be going to. Is spending any time in these other states just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess if there's a congressperson there that needs help, but I mean, that's really kind of micromanaging and kind of getting into the minuscule to try to help the max.
Well, now to make that point, this is interesting. It reminded me of something. We've got 4 congressional districts in the state of Iowa. All 4 are held by Republicans at present. One is seeking re-election for the first time. The others are seeking their 3rd terms each. Of the 4, Democrats lead in 2. And someone said to me, well, if so-and-so is behind, why doesn't Trump come to Iowa and help the person out? And I said, great, except is that where his time is best spent? Because again, if this were Northeast Iowa, right? Fine, have your rally near Wisconsin. I mean, when he was in Wisconsin not long ago, was Prairie du Chien, which, as most of the people listening, Seattle will send you a map, but it's right over the border, right? It's one of those things where you go to one place, you get multiple state benefits. Same thing of going to Omaha if you want to get Nebraska, Iowa, et cetera. But these members of Congress that are in trouble are near Missouri and Illinois. Well, this is, it's a waste of time to go. But if you're going to go to Madison Square Garden for no good reason, sure, come help a couple of your brethren out in, South Dakota or whatever.
Or Staten Island. I was thinking, is there a Republican on Staten Island that's in trouble or something? That was or Long Island.
Is George, what's his name, running?
Santos?
Yeah, he was running at one point. I guess after he pleaded guilty to the felonies, he dropped the campaign.
Is the volleyball season over? Okay, well, I guess maybe he is. So,
wow. That one went deep. That one went deep.
Still one of the best ones, though, Matt. Okay, so there is one thing I do. There's a thing I want to ask you about and get your thoughts.
All right.
You and I have talked about they have outsourced the Republicans have outsourced their get out the vote campaigns and assemblies and door knocking. And it's been a freaking nightmare. I mean, we've heard of state after state where there just doesn't seem to be anyone doing it. There is one number, and most of the numbers you look at relatively close. I'm starting to see some numbers on early ballot returns in Pennsylvania being very pro-Democrat. The fundraising numbers have been very pro-Harris, but a lot of things are fairly close. But one thing that's on the plus for the Republicans is registered Republicans. Republicans getting registered to vote is off the charts. And it doesn't make a lot of sense when you look at this game plan. And I think I figured this out. And I stumbled upon this accidentally.
You stumbled upon the truth, is what you're telling me.
Well, it's a theory, and I want your thoughts on the theory.
All right.
When you outsource these are private companies that are trying to get voters in. They can't, door knocking doesn't give you any kind of thing to point at a chart and say, see, we did all this.
Mm-hmm.
Postcards generally don't do that much. But you can say, well, in Iowa, for say, or in Washington or in Illinois, look at how many Republicans we got registered to vote. Mm-hmm. And my theory is there's a lot of people that are getting registered to vote that are not really realizing they're registered to vote, or not realizing they're registered to vote as Republicans.
Or not really people.
Or no, I think they're people. But I think there's a lot of people that are getting registered to vote that have no idea they're being registered to vote, because these companies have to come up with some metric to show they've been successful to justify the payments they're getting from the RNC.
That is entirely possible. And it's a very interesting theory. I still go with they're not real people, because again, the whole point is they're working on commission, right? These folks are working on commission.
They are. I mean, I'm from some of the contracts I've seen. It's just what they were thinking when they decided to go out of the campaign. I don't know.
Well, staying within the campaign's no good if you believe the Politico story that one of the heads of the campaign has been booking the campaign ads through her own agency and retaining the commission.
This is grifters getting grifted. That's what we got going on here.
Okay. So at the same time that it's like, oh, well, we need to spend $45 million. That's my 10% off the top, and funnel it on through.
It is.
Okay.
And then going everywhere right now.
And then you get to Arizona, he shrieked, because in Arizona, this is the place. Before I go to Arizona, you've seen the latest polls in the Senate races in Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada.
Democrats leading.
All three were looked at by the Republicans as key pickups. Arizona being at the moment an open seat. The idea was, hey, we knock these three off. That's really going to do it. They're getting crushed.
Yeah.
There was some story that the Republican Senatorial Committee is not giving, or the RNC is not giving Carrie Lake a dime in Arizona because she's so far behind. Okay, go to the voting issue in Arizona. All these complaints, right? We was robbed in 2000. She was robbed in 2022. By God, we're going to be ready in 2024. They did diddly squat. And then when a lawyer was told, this is what you need to do, you need to prosecute these things, the lawyer quit. They have nobody there.
I'll tell you what, we'll let you finish up this thought when we come on back. Jeff Stein joining us here on your Wednesday. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hi, this is Laura. Listen to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. or anytime via podcast. Our individual health is connected to the health of each other and connected to the health of the earth. We know the problems with the dominant food system: climate change, deadening soils, nitrates in the water, factory farming, injustice, concentration of wealth. How do we both as individuals and as a community step up and support a living food system which honors the earth? Tune to Food Freedom Radio every Saturday at 8 a.m. and remember to support your independent farmers.
The future of car shopping is here right now at Rudy Luther Toyota with Luther Direct. It's car shopping without ever leaving your home. Go to RudyLutherToyota.com and click on the Luther Direct button. Choose any vehicle in Rudy Luther Toyota's current inventory, either new or certified pre-owned. Then find out your trade-in's value, review a payment plan you qualify for and customize it, and then set up a time for Rudy Luther to drop off your new vehicle and pick up your trade-in. It's that simple. Your new vehicle without any of the hassle. Check out Luther Direct today at RudyLutherToyota.com.
Zip Zap Circus is coming to Minnesota for the first time ever. All the way from Cape Town, South Africa, this world-renowned company brings their acrobatic spectacle, Moya, to Children's Theater Company. Don't miss the stunning aerialists, comic jugglers, and unicycle dancers set to the energetic beat of South African pop music. Zip Zap Circus's Moya plays at CTC September 12th through October 20th. Tickets and information at childrenstheater.org.
Hi, I'm Bruce Klopfleisch, a college political science instructor and attorney. Join me every Sunday at 5 p.m. for Politics Matters. We dive into how civics, politics and law affect you. Discover how government impacts your daily life from the federal level all the way down to your local city. Each week, I'll share my key takeaways and teaching moments on crucial civics concepts to help understand what is happening in the current political environment. That's Politics Matters with Bruce Klopfleisch, Sundays at 5 p.m. or anytime on your favorite podcast app.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
Higher, your love is set me free. Now nothing's out of reach. Higher, higher.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk, in the nighttime hour, 11:50 a.m. KKNW in Seattle, and of course live in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. Jeff Stein joining us here, and just I know you kind of finished up, but you're talking about they found these things in Arizona. What was that again about the lawyer quitting?
For years, it was like, oh, Arizona, big, fraud, and then when the RNC pushed on the lawyer they hired to pursue this, he quit because he said he couldn't pursue them. Okay. I have said, I don't know how many times I say it on my programs. I say it on the national show. I say it here. If all of this stuff was so bad, what have you done, Republicans, to fix it? And it's silent.
Exactly.
Okay, so it either means there wasn't anything or you can't fix it, but why do you think it's going to be different this time? And that circles back, Matt, to your original point of 50-0 state run for Trump.
Oh, yeah, that's what they think. By the way, I love how Carrie Lake, her numbers with Republican voters keeps bottoming out because the more they hear from her, the less popular she is with her own party. I mean, Arizona. I mean, it's going to be a little bit like North Carolina. How low can Robinson go in North Carolina to where Trump could even possibly win with a Republican dragging him down so much? Carrie Lake is starting to get into that territory as well.
Well, and again, we've talked about that Trump really has no coattails. We talked about that at other times with endorsements, et cetera. But in some of these states, he needed their help, right? Yeah. So if those chosen candidates are cratering for Senate, guy,
So a story comes out. Woodward puts out a story saying that during the pandemic, and we have to remember this is back in 2020 when there weren't enough tests, there weren't enough masks, there weren't enough anything. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump, even though the citizens of the United States desperately needed these tests, he basically made sure to send Vlad Putin some tests, and Putin was telling him, don't let anyone know about this because this could come back to haunt you. We found out about this. Trump initially said it didn't happen, but now the Kremlin has indeed said, oh, yeah, we did actually get these tests from Trump during this time.
And you want to talk about ungrateful so-and-sos. He sent them the tests, and they're still endorsing Harris. Well, what have you done for me lately?
I don't know if they're endorsing Harris.
Isn't that what Putin said in the interviews? Like, well, we prefer her or something.
They threw him under the bus. I mean, and you think about his press secretary and the vitriol he came after Woodward with after that story broke and how, this is lies. We're going to sue him, all these things. And a funny story from our point of view. Yeah, we got them. Thank you very much, wow. Donnie T. We appreciate it. Love you.
Wow. Moose and squirrel. Nicely done. That's very, very nicely done. Well, and the other revelation, and this is a new book by Woodward. And, he's telling all sorts of tales, and that's what he's done for 50 years. Okay, fine. But it's about ongoing phone calls after Trump left office. Okay, so here's the thing, and I know time is tight. There are Democrats in Congress who've been saying, okay, if he does win, what can we do to stop it? Well, here's one thing. Why don't you subpoena phone records? Because if you can prove that the president out of power is having phone calls with the Russian president and it's a big secret, again,
Well,
I keep making that sound, but isn't that the kind of grounds that they're looking for that might actually go somewhere?
And there is a process that if you leave office, but yet a friend of yours, you became friends with, say, the Prime Minister of Canada, and he's still in office, there is a process for you to inform the government. I'm going to make a phone call. It's a private phone call. I'm going to just talk to him. Fine. Everyone, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. You can do that. I mean, it's not like you can't have friends anymore. But none of this happened. Well,
That's not new.
You're stuck in the station. But it's
Yeah.
the thing which I find to be someone put this, I think it was White House might have put this out today, said, you don't think for one second that Russia hasn't recorded every one of those phone conversations? You're an absolute idiot, and they will be able to hold it over his head no matter what he said.
Given this is going to be tough. Trump enjoys legacy, right?
Oh yeah, although he wants to be perceived as the greatest thing that ever lived.
Well, yeah, it's a positive legacy. This is not the villain in WWE.
It's natural, like his skin tone. Yes.
But my point is that how do we know he hasn't recorded them in a Nixonian way? How do we know he doesn't record this stuff?
Because when they tried to overthrow the government on January 6th, it was an insurrection performed by the stupidest human beings on the planet. And the only reason it probably didn't succeed is because the dumbest people were behind it. And that's why it's kind of scary.
Well, no, I'm talking about, don't you think Trump is recording his own phone calls for posterity? That's what I'm talking about.
Well, the thing I keep coming across is, last I checked, there were boxes and boxes of top secret documents at Mar-a-Lago in the bathroom. I mean, I can only imagine.
A little light reading. Who doesn't take a little light reading?
Could you imagine the Russian aide's face when he goes into, oh my God, so all the top secrets of the United States are in the John. Okay, boy, the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you very much. There are some things here that are very concerning about this, but once again, now all of a sudden we're inundated with a whole bunch of lies about Florida, and DeSantis has already come out saying, stop with the lies about FEMA and stuff. We don't need that now. But they're desperately, this is what Trump does. He is very good at getting the camera off the story that's embarrassing to him or detrimental to him by basically saying, let me drop trowel right here on camera. Basically.
Well, thanks for the image. One good thing, Joe Biden saying
tan lines, by the way. Sorry.
Or orange lines, if it really can. Joe Biden saying, the governor of Florida has been great. We've been in contact. I gave him my personal number. Everything's fine. And for DeSantis to say, I've been in contact with the president. Forget any of the sideshow noise. Having that sort of thing as this comes ashore in, just a matter of hours, that's a good thing. That's how it's supposed to be, is it not?
Well, and the thing which is obviously, and this is the lesser concern, is we have to make sure that these secretaries of states in these states, they can get the voting up, because that's important. And we don't, in Iowa, Minnesota, we don't have anything of that nature that happens. So obviously it's a lot of things we got to focus on in these areas as these hurricanes come through.
Yes,
Jeff
sir.
Stein, once again, the Iowa Politics Report, I will post that a little bit later on. Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
We'll see you next week.
Chicago, Seattle, we'll talk to you later. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next.
This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, weekdays at 5 p.m. On our show, you'll hear about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with the latest news from Turtle Island. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weekdays at 5 p.m. or watch the show on Native Roots Radio social media accounts. Ho-wah!
Whether you rent or own a home, we all likely have nightmare stories about home maintenance, or what I like to call home cringe moments. Join me, your host, Katie Shahan, for the Yarlow Home Cringe Show, See what home cringe-worthy stories we have for you each week as we talk with local home service pros. Learn best practices for winterizing your home or what to look for after a hailstorm. Listen to the Yarlow Home Cringe Show every Sunday at 2 p.m. or on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, Minnesota, it's your favorite sexy liberal. Join me and my fellow cohorts in liberal justice weekdays from 8 to 11 on AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. Milton has arrived along the Florida Gulf Coast. There are tropical storm force winds and rain. National Hurricane Center Director Michael Brennan says this is just the start.
We're already seeing multiple life-threatening hazards playing out across Florida. We have multiple tornado warnings in effect across portions of southern Florida. We're seeing winds increasing, heavy rainfall spreading across much of the state.
Milton is weakened to Category 3, but still very powerful. Landfall is expected either late tonight or early tomorrow. Jane Castor is the mayor in Tampa.
So what we're looking at is a storm of the century. It goes a bit north. That is the worst case scenario. It goes a bit south. That's the best case scenario, but it's not good.
Phyllis Pearson in West Bradenton, Florida, says Milton convinced her to evacuate.
As far as hurricanes go, this is by far the worst one that I know of in the history of Florida.
Milton is centered about 100 miles from Tampa. Walt Disney World parks in Orlando are shut down, but its hotels remain open. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says President Biden spoke by phone today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
We've had discussions, we're continuing discussions with Israel on their response to Iran's attack last week. I'm not going to dive into it. I'm not going to get into it from here.
Israel's defense minister is warning retaliation for recent Iranian missile attacks will be lethal and surprising. The Supreme Court appears likely to give Oklahoma death row inmate Richard Glossip at least another day in court in his long quest to throw out his murder conviction and death sentence. Glossip could face a new trial in the 1997 killing in Oklahoma City of his former boss in what prosecutors have alleged was a murder-for-hire scheme. The Dow finished up 431 points. This is AP News.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950, here to tell you about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If your home was hit with the most recent storms, trust the most well-reviewed exterior construction company, Snap Construction, for a free home inspection.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. There are a lot of great construction companies in town. My advice is to take your time and do your research. Make sure they are locally owned and that they guarantee their craftsmanship for life. Also, you want to find a company that's been in business for at least 10 years. You want to work with a company that's going to be there long after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims, and we'll help you through the process.
Don't go with the out-of-town fly-by-night contractor. Most storm damage goes missed by the untrained eye. Trust Snap Construction for your free storm damage evaluation. For your free storm damage evaluation, call Snap Construction at 612-333-SNAP or visit them online at snapconstruction.com. That's 612-333-SNAP or snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Your hosts for Searching for Service. Tune in to Rotary's influential show and podcast, sharing touching stories of service locally and abroad.
We bring you weekly guests that connect, inform, and inspire our listeners on all things service.
We highlight diverse service opportunities that appeal to both Rotarians and people driven to serve in their communities.
Tune in Sundays at 3 p.m. or anytime via podcast. It's time
to stop searching
and start serving.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 73, tonight partly cloudy with a low around 50, and Thursday partly sunny with a high near 84. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or stop by their location in Roseville off Lexington Avenue. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour 2 of the show here on your Wednesday. Good to be with you. Jam-packed this hour. John Crippen from the Hennepin History Museum. He's going to join us a little bit later on about a water blessing ceremony that's going to be happening up here in just a few weeks down, in a few days actually, over at Bassett Creek. We'll talk to him a little bit later on. But right now, we actually want to focus our attention on a new production. This is at the Open Eye Theater. It's Broomstick is opening up October 10th, runs to the 31st. And on the 31st, on Halloween, they're got a little shindig. We'll talk about that. Joining us to talk about this is Open Eye's producing artistic director, Joel Sass, who is directing this feature. And the only star of this 90-minute play, Cheryl Willis, is kind enough to join us as well to talk about the production of Broomstick. Thank you very much. I appreciate both of you joining me today.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Joel, let's start with you, and let's start with Open Eye Theater, because I want to make sure we mention, first of all, you guys are right off of Portland Avenue on 24th, I believe it is, correct?
That's right. We're right in the heart of South Minneapolis, on the other side of the highway from the Minneapolis Art Institute. And our near neighbor is the Swedish Institute. So we are the tiny cultural jewel against those two giants there.
You guys are running a full schedule coming up here. We got Broomstick coming up here starting on the 10th, but you guys got a full agenda out there. I want to drive people to your website so that they can find out more about the entire season you have at Open Eye.
Yeah, we're at openeyetheater.org, O-R-G, and we've been prety lucky. Even during the shutdown, we sort of started performing outdoors and kept our audience with us. And now we're back indoors with 90 seats. Every row is the front row, basically. And we're celebrating the Halloween season with a show about the secret life of a witch, and then following that up with some crazy adult puppetry in November, and then the world's naughtiest version of A Christmas Carol called Scrooge and Rouge that'll be with us in December.
Okay. you've got me entertained there. I want to go to Cheryl, if I can chat with you a little bit here. You are an actress. You've done a lot of plays and stuff here in town. You're doing a 90-minute show by yourself on a stage. As an actor, talk a little bit about the intimidation of that, because I just was over. I saw another play where it was three guys basically doing a 3-act play, and that is insane. That's not what you're doing. You're by yourself on that stage for 90 minutes.
It's petrifying, yes. But what's so glorious about it is that I don't have to rely on other actors to mess things up for me. I can do them all by myself. So, no, it's great. It's a tour de force. It's taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get it to where it is, ready for opening. And I'm really proud. It's a bit like a train, though. Riding a bike. Once the curtain opens, metaphoric curtain opens, and you step onto that stage, you just got to go and keep going until there's applause at the end, hopefully.
Have you done a lot of single-person shows, or is this a first for you?
It's not a first for me. I did a production of a play called Shirley Valentine over at the Jungle Theatre many moons ago, okay. and I've also performed that in other places around America. So it's not a new thing, but it's always a scary thing. It never gets easier, especially the older you get as well.
I think I can completely understand that, and but as you do, it does free you up a little bit. Is that it's you on your own, and it does. I know there's so much kind of technical elements of any play, but it does free you up to have some level of freedom for yourself as the actor on that stage by yourself.
Right. And I am performing a play. I'm playing up there. And Joel has created this beautiful environment for me, this set. You won't believe it's the coolest witch's house in town, I would say. And I get up there, and the lighting design and the sound, and I've got my Penny, my stage manager, who's there working with me. She's not going to leave that booth. Oh no, Penny, don't do that. And we're connected, and when everything comes together, the magic, it's so fun. It's like my childhood imagination has just been splurged into reality on the stage, and it's delightful.
Joel, let's talk a little bit about Broomstick. First of all, just a synopsis. What is the play about?
Sure. It's basically the confessions and confidences of a village witch. If you ever wanted to know what made them what they are and how they pass their time, now's your chance. So it's as if the audience members are the grown-up adult children now returned to visit someone they encountered in their infancy or their childhood or their teenhood. And she's reminding them all of things they might vaguely recollect of times that they had together, games that they played, food that she made for them, and maybe things that they saw which we have forgotten, and maybe for good reason. Mm-hmm. So she lets us know a lot about, what it was like for her growing up. Her parents, her mom and dad, there's some very crazy things going on in that house. Her first love, first, hot night of amour under the moon, and how she discovers her powers, or what the village people believe are her powers. So, it's always interesting, right? What's a witch? Are they something that other people make? Someone else play the role of, or are they real? And we should be on our guard, or certainly our best behavior if we encounter one.
Your play is for 14 and older, so just make sure we mention that as well. It is for kind of teenagers and older. You mentioned the holidays. I mean, we have tons of Christmas plays; they always get done. It's refreshing to see a Halloween play that is out there. Are there a lot of Halloween plays, or what about this one drew you to say, let's put this one on this year?
There is something cool about the seasonality of it, yeah. So if you're thinking about, hey, what kind of shows could we create, and who could play them? That's the other thing. It's sort of like I found this script about 4 years ago, and I've kept it on a very tight leash, because they said, oh my gosh, if it gets done locally, Open Eye should do it. And I think I know who should play the witch, Cheryl. And Cheryl said yes. So there is something about the history of all the different artists who've worked at Open Eye at one point or another, kind of use the vocabulary or the literature of fairy tales or mythology or folklore as a way of exploring, human realities or truths, or even the way the world is now. And the idea of doing a show about a witch, when witches have never gone out of style. We're in the season of the witch right now. Just ask Disney and Marvel. Agatha all along is the hot binge of the moment. But there was just something really cool about this particular play. Its language, the cool ride it can take an audience on, and the fact we've got the best actor in town to play the part.
Joel Sass, the director of Broomstick, also the artistic director for the Open Eye Theater, joining us, as well as Cheryl Willis. And Cheryl, I want to get to the idea of playing a witch. And there are some characters you get out there that it can be a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes it's tight. You're kind of following a specific set of rules. Talk about approaching this. I mean, was there a lot of instruction from the script about how they wanted it portrayed, or did they just say, you have some fun with this?
Well, to start with, the script is actually written in verse, so it was really cool to learn this rhyme and rhythm, but then tear it apart and make it my own language. I am from England, so So I delve into my Celtic roots to produce this accent. And I lower my voice and I get down and dirty. And it's so pleasing not to be doing an ingenue role, because quite frankly, pretty little girls are boring. And it's so much nicer to play the old hag for once. I'm loving it. It's so freeing as well, not to have the concerns of look taken away from you and just be an old hag on the stage. It's great fun. I thoroughly enjoy it.
I've heard from people that when you talk about horror, whether it's film, TV, or plays, that the British are the best because they grow up on Shakespeare. And if anything can teach you how to do horror, it's Shakespeare. I mean, is that a fair assessment? Is that the British actors, because of the repertoire they generally are immersed in, it does present better horror, better witches, better bad things when they're presented on a stage or on a screen?
Oh, sure. All that influences it, and we are a very superstitious people. We come from pagans and shamans and all that lovely stuff. And where I grew up, actually, just 30 minutes down the road, was the scene of England's equivalent of what's it called, Joel?
Salem.
The Pendle witches, the Lancashire witches, were 12 people were killed or accused of witchcraft and killed on this hill. And as a kid, we'd go hiking up this hill on Halloween and spook ourselves to misery. It was great. So no, I've got a whole vocabulary of horror and the spookiness that I bring to this role. It's great.
The difference between England and America. You want me to go to Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween? Big nope. You're like, hey, let's go hiking on Halloween up the dead witch hill, and let's go talk about it. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Oh God, perfect. I get Joel. I can see why when you saw this play and you said, "Oh, Cheryl," right away. I can see how this worked out for you.
Yeah. Well, and the Twin Cities are both really broad in terms of arts groups and people who work, but it's also small, and that smallness has given me the privilege of working with Dame Willis a couple times over the last decade, and it's been some years, so this was kind of a cool opportunity to reunite and do a project, but we've never done like the one-person show together before, so it's a cool reunion, although sometimes scary.
Joel, I mean, it is also a great note that we in this town are blessed because we have a lot of great theaters, and Open Eye is out there doing, what is an incredibly unique, and as you described earlier, some of the events that are coming up, and you can, obviously expand on those a little bit. I mean, not just Broomstick, but what's coming up in November and December. I think it is so wonderful that we have this artistic venue in this city, because there's a lot of places that don't have 1/10 of what we got in the Twin Cities when it comes to the theater.
It is true. And I have to say, there were, in my youth, a while ago now, I was like, should I move to Chicago? Should I go to New York? And those can all be great moves. But every time I would go out of town and visit, I was just impressed with, we've got that back here. Oh yeah, we've got that back here. And you could get your hands in it a little easier. So I think it's one of the reasons we've got such a great, both acquired, sometimes from very far away, England, for example, but also folks who, have become artists here and have found that it's a great place to live and work. And the audiences are pretty great. I have to say, they're very eclectic in their tastes. And, our brand has kind of grown up to feed that. We do, not just theater, we do puppetry and storytelling and live music, and then lots of work that kind of combines all of that. So our audiences tend to be the folks who like the offbeat and the homegrown and stuff that's very Minnesota based artists is kind of our brand.
Well, and you have, and this is one of the things that's great too, it's not one or two places. You got a full schedule there. And I want, once again, you need to go to Open Eye. Is it openeye.org?
Yeah, Open Eye Theater with an RE, we're fancy that way, .org.
re.org. And like I said, it's one of those things that's great because it's something that, it's not a pretentious kind of theater community. And that's the great part about it, is that you're just looking for something to do. You've got plenty of opportunities to go see Broomstick, plus all the other events that are there. And I'm presuming you also have season tickets available for Open Eye, correct?
Yeah, well, we don't do a season ticket, but we've got all of the tickets are available from now through like next June. Okay. So we've got like music lovers, we've got Galen Lee, who's, big star out of Duluth, and Kevin Kling doing a show with us next November.
Okay.
We've got, a big festival that happens in the spring, which is called Puppet Lab. And that's all like very crazy, eclectic out there, new works of puppetry and masks. And then we've got what we call our guest artist series. And these are folks who are doing original work by and large, folks who have, made Minnesota their home base, who've got some affiliation with us artistically or aesthetically. So we exist as the platform for people to get their work in front of audiences if they don't carry their own stage with them. So.
One final thing I do want to make sure I mention, what is going on the 31st production? This is the last show you're doing at Broomstick. And it sounds like, is it some sort of shindig you guys got going on there?
We're going to do a shindig. I mean, we try to make every show a shindig, but the one on Halloween will be special. We're going to have a little party afterwards. There'll be nips and nibbles. We'll have a demonic DJ, and we're going to encourage everybody to dress as their favorite witch or warlock. Just so that we can, summon the spirits after the show comes down. Because again, it's only 90 minutes and it's Halloween, so we've got to have a party afterwards.
Well, and I'm going to presume, I'm bringing that one up because if you want to get tickets to that one, that's the one you need to get tickets to now, because I got to believe in this town, that's going to sell out very quickly.
It's going to go fast. It's going to go fast, and it'll be fun. Like, in addition to our theater, we've got a really cool little back courtyard garden. So after the shows, we often adjourn back there. And the cool thing about Open Eye is you can come and catch a show, and then if you hang out for 10 minutes, you're going to be meeting the artists who just did all this stuff in front of you on stage. So it kind of breaks down that separation that you can have between the artists who are creating the work. And sometimes you feel like you go and sit in your chair, you pay your, $20 or whatever to see it, and then you go home. And were they real? And here you get to meet the real sweaty people who just did the show and have a drink and a conversation, and then, hopefully, have somebody that you can follow around town and see what else they do.
Cheryl, will you stay in character? Or after 90 minutes, it's like I'm done. I'm back to being Cheryl now. On Halloween, are you going to do that?
I don't know. I could just wear the costume. I guess it'll save me getting changed. No, I don't know. I think I might. Who knows? Show up and see.
Open Eye Theater, Broomstick. It opens on the 10th, which I'm not mistaken is tomorrow, correct? I believe it is opening tomorrow. And it runs to the 31st over at Open Eye Theater. Open Eye Theater with an re.org is where you're going to find out information. I'll link to everything a little bit later on. Joel Sass is the artistic director for the theater, as well as the director for this production. And Cheryl Willis is the one star that you will see for 90 minutes on the stage with Broomstick. Both of you, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time today.
Thank you, man. Great to be with you.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure chatting with you. Let's take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on Wednesday.
Oh, don't you dare look back. Just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said, shut up.
Hey, it's Patrick. We're headed into the Halloween season, and maybe you're thinking about having a Halloween party at your house later this month, but your carpet looks like something right out of a horror movie. But it's easy for you to make a good decision. Unlike a character in a horror movie, just call My Cleaning Heroes at Zero Res. They'll take care of all those carpet terrors like pet messes, spills, and stains. Right now, you can get your entire home zero-resified from Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner and get 3 rooms of carpet starting at $129 and take $75 off to get all that scary stuff out of your air ducts as well. Don't let missing this deal haunt you. Call my friends at Zero Res today for 3 rooms starting at $129 and $75 off an air duct cleaning. Book your appointment today by calling 952-ZERO-RES or going to ZeroResMinnesota.com and asking for the AM 950 special. Back order forward smells the same. Zero Res.
I've often said the RAV4 from Rudy Luther Toyota is the best vehicle I've ever driven, and I just had it proven to me once again. I drove around San Francisco and the Sierra Nevadas in a RAV4 hybrid, and it was sensational. The city driving was amazing, tackling tight corners and steep city streets while looking stylish. The real challenge came when we got up into the mountain roads, and the RAV4 carved them up like a hot knife through butter. And the hybrid fuel efficiency saved me over $200 on my vacation. Win, win, win. Test drive a Toyota RAV4 today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Dr. Stefano Sinacropi, an orthopedic spine surgeon and wellness evangelist, hosting the brand new Recharging the Human Battery show on AM 950 radio. My co-host Mandy Dickey and I will delve into various health topics ranging from medicine to nutrition to exercise, emerging technologies, and yes, some way out there stuff. Will provide a balanced view of today's landscape, helping listeners navigate its complexities and hoping to change the way you think about your health. Recharging the Human Battery airs Saturdays at 11 a.m.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had, made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hey, Mr. DJ, put a record on. I want to dance with my baby.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 is the phone number. I did not watch the game last night where the Lynx vanquished the Connecticut Sun. But as soon as I saw this Liberty versus the Lynx finals, the first thing I said is this. Yeah, Brett, how much do you follow women's basketball?
I'm a pretty casual fan, but I did watch the second half last night, which unfortunately it was pretty much over since the Lynx, I think, got up big in that first quarter.
I think they were up by 20 at one point, and then they got down to 11 or so at the end, but they didn't. I mean, it
was garbage time.
It was garbage time, basically. I will say this, and I do not say this hesitantly. I think what we are about to see between the New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx is going to be the greatest matchup, at least on paper, in women's basketball history. I don't think I have seen. I mean, I think about it. I mean, did you watch any of the Olympics, the women's basketball game versus France for the gold medal? Did you watch it?
Oh, I wish I did to see the finish of that game. Yeah,
where the woman actually stepped on the 3-point line. It was a 2-point.
Yeah.
That was France was heartbroken. That was to tie the game, but they didn't have it in time. That was good. There have been very good teams in the WNBA. I mean, really stacked teams. Minnesota Lynx have had a few of them. I can't remember ever this league having two teams this good at the same time, and they have managed both of them. None of them choked, and they got to the finals. We're in for a freaking treat because although I think the odds people have said that New York is a major favorite here. I think that this is going to definitely go the full length. These two teams are really, really good. And that Liberty are back in the finals looking for the first championship in franchise history. They have to get through the Minnesota Lynx to do it. Liberty advanced to the WNBA finals for the second straight year after knocking out the two-time defending Las Vegas Aces in the semifinal. They made the championship round 5 times and lost each one. The Lynx made it this far for the first time since 2017 when they won the last of their 4 championships during their 7-year span. Minnesota needed 5 games to advance to the finals. Connecticut was also a really good team this year. That was not a fluke team. I mean, this is whichever team wins this is definitely earning it this year. It's not like it's an off year for all the other teams but one. Game 1 of the best of 5 finals is on Thursday night, giving the Lynx a little time to recover and prepare for the Liberty. Talk about the schedule. Who cares? Nobody is going to feel bad for us. Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeves said, we got to go hooping right away, and we'll get to that. The two teams faced off in the title already when the Minnesota won the Commissioner's Cup back in June. And it wasn't like both teams weren't trying to win the Commissioner's Cup. And as a matter of fact, can I say this about the Lynx? I think from that point forward, from the Commissioner's Cup, they looked a little bit lost earlier in the season, and they solidified into a monster team for after that Commissioner's Cup. So I think you can feel really good. They can feel really good about that. One story from the Smile File before I get into it. Once again, John Crippen going to join us from the Hennepin History Museum in just a few minutes. The Blue Earth Man, I call it the Smile File because I do enjoy seeing insurrectionists go to jail. A Blue Earth Man who participated in the January 6 riots at the nation capital was sentenced to serve 6 months in prison, followed by a year of supervised release. Paul Orta Jr. must pay a $2,000 in restitution. The previously reported Orta turned himself into the FBI field office in Minneapolis on January 25th after seeing himself in the FBI's most wanted website. Criminal complaint filed in D.C. states the video from the Capitol showed Orta among removing a barrier and encouraging people to the crowd to go forward. The complaint notes that he removed at least 2 sections of the barrier and threw them over a concrete wall, making it easier for the crowd to advance on the Capitol and harder for officers to regain control. Orta is later seen in a photo of throwing an unknown dark-colored object towards police and then later pushing against the police line. 6 months. Yeah, and people will say, well, Matt, he came forward. He came forward. Well, that's why you got 6 months. And you didn't get like a lot of these other guys are getting like 5, 6, 7 years. You got 6 months, but you still got to go to jail because you try to overthrow the government of the United States. There's got to be some level of consequences. And the fact that you did go to the FBI in Minneapolis and say, hey, that's me, I'm sorry, or what, I don't know what you said. My guess is you said, I'm sorry. I don't think you would go into the FBI's office saying, glad I did it. I don't think that's going to be your attitude. But, I think that's why you only get 6 months in jail and a year's release. But, you can't try to overthrow the government of the United States and think of it. It's like, okay, no blood, no foul. You can't do that. You just can't do that. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break and come on back. John Crippen from the Hennepin History Museum is going to join us. We've got a water blessing that's going to be coming up. We'll talk about the second annual one of those, plus what else is going on at Hennepin History right now. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday.
Hey, AM 950 listeners, this is JP D'Arbragosian, host of The Gaily Show. We celebrate LGBTQ culture and entertainment in Minnesota and beyond every Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Coming up this weekend is the Flip the Script Festival. You can watch this amazing LGBTQ film festival in person here in the Twin Cities or online if you want to watch it at home. The in-person festival runs October 11th through the 13th. The opening night film is at the Imagine Willow Creek Cinema on Friday at 7 p.m., and the film is Foragers, which depicts the conflict between the Israel Nature and Parks Authority and Palestinian foragers around the practice of foraging for wild edible plants in Palestine and Israel with wry humor and a meditative pace. Throughout the weekend, there will be celebrations of comedy, drama, and documentary short films. There will be 2 feature-length films on Saturday night, one of which is Extremely Unique Dynamic, which is about Ryan and Daniel, 2 childhood best friends and aspiring actors who decide to make a movie. But as they do, a bunch of bottled up secrets all come out into the open as their extremely unique dynamic is put to the test. On Sunday night, the closing night film is Ladylike, which is about drag queen Lady Camden, who was a contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race. She must come to terms with a traumatic childhood that drove her to seek joy, fantasy, and escape through the performing arts. For all the movies, tickets, and showtimes, go to flipthescriptfest.org. Coming up this Saturday at 2 p.m. on This Queer Book Saved My Life, my guest will be Clark Carlton, and we'll be talking about the epically funny tongue-in-cheek novel Fag Hag by Rob Rohde, who joins us for the conversation. After that, on The Gaily Show, Jack Tamburi, who is the director of drawing lessons at Children's Theater, will join me along with the organizers of the Flip the Script Festival, Matthew Berg and Victoria Carpenter. So tune in this Saturday at 2 p.m. For now, enjoy this hour of The Matt McNeil Show.
This is Andy Addo, your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified, inviting you to join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. as we get to know Alexis and Dejan from Family Equality. They are planning a huge Midwest family fun weekend this October, and we'd like to share all the details with you. Pizza parties, donuts and drag, and making connections with other community families. That's all coming up this Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 73. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 50. And Thursday, partly sunny with a high near 84. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or stop by their location in Roseville off Lexington Avenue. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Nice to have you with us today. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. A man I have talked to many, many times. I haven't talked to him recently, though. John Crippen is kind enough to join us. My friend, John Crippen, who is the executive director of the Hennepin History Museum. Kind enough today to talk about what things are going on over there, plus a water blessing ceremony, a second annual one that's coming up here in a few days. John, thank you very much. I appreciate the time, my friend. Oh, you're muted, I think. I think you're muted. There you are. And can we hear you there?
There we
maybe?
Go.
There we are. There.
Wow. Like 4+ years after pandemic, and we're still doing that. I think you're muted.
I think it would be great as if you came in as a cat. You know, that would yes, that's the interview I want to do there. Let's start off, of course, Hennepin History Museum. I mean, I'm talking about all the things around you. I was talking about the Open Eye Theater across the highway from you guys, basically.
Awesome.
You of course, are right there next to the MIA in South Minneapolis. Talk about what's been going on over there.
We're doing a lot of great stuff. This summer, we opened an exhibit called Circle of Water, Puppetry as an Agent of Change. And we got, a few years ago, a collection from In the Heart of the Beast Theater, centered around their Circle of Water circus 40 years ago, 1983. They started up at Brainerd and went down the Mississippi River to New Orleans, talking about environmentalism, water advocacy, and what have you. And they did it Huck Finn style. They'd go into town, do a little parade through town saying, tonight, there's a circus. And they put on a show. And so we've created an immersive, I like to call it a puppet forest. You walk into the gallery and you're surrounded by these beautiful puppets talking about the history of the Mississippi River and water quality. So,
well, and once again, and you and I have talked in the past, someone had the smarts to put those puppets aside and save them, so that, because, you know, at times when we're living through history, we don't realize it is history, but thankfully they did, and now they are on display over there.
Yeah, Sandy Spieler, longtime artistic director at Heart of the Beast. It was interesting to watch the mashup of Puppet World and Museum World. She said early on, you can't put these in cases. Like, they need to be alive. We're like, well, yeah, but you can't mess with them. She's like, they need to be alive. So she worked with us for about 6 weeks to create these magical installation that they do come alive. Yeah.
How long is that? How long is that? It's
going to be up for another year and a half. We thought, we went to a big time and expense. We want to keep this in the community for as long as we can. So we've got time, but don't take too much time. The other things going on exhibit-wise, we've got an exhibit about the Tibetan American community in Minnesota, second largest Tibetan community in the United States. So we're telling their story with them. They're telling their story here with us. And next weekend, October 19th, we're opening an exhibit on the Pioneer Soldier Cemetery, which is at Cedar and Lake in South Minneapolis, and highlighting the stories of long forgotten, sometimes, residents of Minneapolis that were just unsung heroes or regular community members living their lives, but we're elevating some of their stories.
Okay, so and it's interesting you brought that up, because and I do enjoy talking history with you. Was Cedar Lake? I mean, I drove past that cemetery all the time when I was going to school, and I was on Lake Street, and you'd see it down there. And how old is that cemetery? Does it go back to the beginnings of the city?
It goes back to late 19th century. One of the early homesteaders that came in after the treaties were signed in 51. I think they came to the property in 52 or 3, and early on somebody said, "Hey, I don't have any place to bury my son. Can I bury my son?" And they said, "Sure." And sooner rather than later, they said, "Yeah, we're not going to try to do a farm. Let's just make our property a cemetery." So it was, a lot of the territorial people, early Minnesotans, were buried there. There are about 22,000 graves in this cemetery, most of them unmarked.
Really?
It also was, in those 19th century parlance, it was the pauper cemetery for Minneapolis. People would just get buried there if there was nowhere else to go. It also was a haven in the 19th century for people who'd committed suicide, because you couldn't get buried in a religious graveyard, in a church graveyard, if you committed suicide, so they'd come here. So
Because I mean, there had to have been somewhere downtown in that area a cemetery at some point with the very early people. I mean, was there ever one, or is it always down out of the city?
It's always out of the city. The big one, of course, is Lakewood, where the rich and famous are buried. But so it's an interesting juxtaposition of the two on either end of Lake Street.
And I think it's what's fascinating about that is this is one of those cemeteries that is, you are going back in time. You are literally able to peel the layers of the onion of the citizens of the city as they came on in. And, has someone done the research, try to figure out who's in some of those unmarked graves, or is that lost?
Sue Hunter Ware is the hero of this story. She's been, as a volunteer for decades, been doing this research. And so we connected with her a year or two ago and said, hey, what do you think? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm ready. So she's been doing the research. And we also have a magazine issue coming out at the end of this month. And our editor has done a long form interview with Sue. She's fascinating. And she's one of these really cool people that, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but like, she talks to dead people. She sees dead people. Like, she knows these people like her friends. Like, she's just into the research.
I will say it is we are in Halloween, the spookiest month of the year. And as delivered, Hennepin History Museum is giving you something kind of spooky, but much more, informative by having this. And it opens on the 19th, right?
Yeah, I have to admit, it wasn't an accident that we chose October to open this exhibit.
I'm going to let you know, my birthday is October 19th. So I'm taking this as like, this is a shot against me. I'm going to I know what you're up to, John.
I didn't know that, but happy birthday early.
Yes, come talk about the cemetery. You're speaking of getting old, Matt.
Yeah.
But that sounds like for us, but it sounds like a fun.
I mean, cemetery geeks, they're willing to say this is fun. I mean, because you get to know people in a different sort of way. It's yeah.
Well, and I mean, I'm presuming as well, some of the gravestones out there, I mean, there were some ornate ones that were put out at the time. Are there, did you see any of those in there? Are there any?
There are famous people. Philander Prescott is buried there. He was he was a victim in the 1862 U.S.-Dakota War. He's probably the most famous resident of Pioneer Soldiers. But Colonel Cheatham, the first black fire chief in Minneapolis, is buried there. So we tell Mr. Cheatham's story. There's some prominent people there too.
Let's talk a little bit about what is coming up here. And I believe this is coming up here on the 14th, which is Monday. Is that this coming Monday?
It is Monday. It's Indigenous Peoples Day, formerly known or sometimes known as Columbus Day, but these days we call it Indigenous Peoples Day.
Because we're smarter. Because we're smarter about this. We can put Columbus on the shelf at this point. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You guys, it's a water blessing over at Bassett Creek, which, by the way, I love this. I love the idea of this because personally, frankly, I could go for more Native American water blessings around the state because they've been right about water the entire time. And we need to be listening to what the Native Americans are saying about water and quality and making sure it stays clean.
This is what's really cool about this project. We call it the Hahawakbadan water blessing. We were the beneficiaries a couple of years ago of Valley Community Presbyterian Church did a land acknowledgement. They live their church is in Golden Valley, right on the creek, and they wanted to do something more than just a land acknowledgement. So they got a grant and collected oral histories of American Indians in suburbia. Thinking, wow, people don't usually hear about this. There's a native scholar at UW-Wisconsin or UW-Madison who this is her main area of focus. So they collected these oral histories, but they needed a place to put them, contacted us, and we said, we'd love to be the repository for these oral histories, but we don't want to just store them away and hope somebody finds them. Let's activate this with some programming. So we started doing bits and pieces here. Like, what sort of programs can we do? We didn't have an agenda other than we want some of these stories to come out. So we had cultural advisors helping with the project. And one of the cultural advisors last year said, could you guys help us with a water blessing? We want to bring this story forward about the proper way to take care of water. And we said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the reason, as you know, Matt, this is the reason why I like to do history, is it's meaningful in people's lives. So why do we call it Hahawakpadan instead of Bassett Creek? Because that's what the Dakota people called this waterway. And it's related to Hahawakpa, which is the river of the falls. Bassett Creek goes into the Mississippi River. So Wakpadan is a creek, or the mini river going into the bigger river, Wakpa. So we want to get that story out, but we also want to say, we want to answer the so what question. So what? Great, there was another name for it. Well, there's another name for it. There's another way to live alongside this creek and think about what it means in your life. And so we do things like this water blessing to get that story out there and have people think about place and connect to place in a new way.
And it is because, what I love about this is doing this in the suburbs, because these creeks, these rivers, and you can pick any one of them, they used to be major lifebloods of the Native American peoples, with their communities, their farming, whatever, where they would settle at every time during the year. And even we know the Mississippi, we know the big river, but all these creeks there, they used to be much more sustaining, and now they're just something we occasionally have a park that goes past, and a lot of them have been diverted and challenged, and they've got runoff and all these things on them. And I think that making us understand that the Native Americans, these were the lifeblood of the communities, that they were able to survive because of these creeks and because of the food that they got out of the creek, that the creek helped create. I think helping us understand that, it just takes it away from being just a pretty little place in a park, and makes it understand that this is something that we need to value.
Yeah, and it helps you think twice about, what does it mean that this creek goes through two golf courses, and are these golf courses being good neighbors to the water? What does it mean that the creek is buried under literally 15 feet of concrete as it goes through downtown Minneapolis underneath Target Field? Let's think about that. And let's imagine different ways of thinking about it. To your point about lifebloods, Tara Perrin is a Dakota and Anishinaabe woman who will be doing the blessing. She's also doing Dakota plant walks for us. She did 2 this fall. She's going to do some more next spring, where she actually talks about, we walk through a park and she says, here's this plant. This is what it's used for. This is the medicine in this plant. Here's the medicine in this plant. This is how my family keeps itself healthy, and encourages other people to consider doing the same.
Well, can I bring up something that's interesting? I was out at Yosemite early this year, and in Yosemite, that is something that they are trying to come to grips with, is that they ripped out all the native plants and got rid of them. And they brought in all these, the European influence on the plants, and that they brought Native Americans from that region back into the community. And they said, what did you do with all the plants? All the plants that we used to live and survive off of, they're all gone. And they are trying now, at least in parts of the park, to reintroduce the native original plants to get it back how it is. And once again, I think this is knowledge we have lost, and sadly we have lost, that the Native Americans have, and it's not lost to them. Bringing that back and showing us what survival was, what life was like, and how there's an abundance of all this all around us, I think is wonderful.
And what life is. I mean, Tara actively collects plants, but she's got to be careful about it. There have been legal cases, because on public lands, you can't just go take stuff. And so American Indians have filed suits with various government agencies to say, wait a minute, this is my cultural patrimony. You can't tell me I can't harvest. I'm going to harvest respectfully. I'm not going to over harvest, but we got to do it carefully. The other thing is, the first project we did was in St. Paul. I'm not throwing shade on St. Paul parks, but it's an education process. She says, I don't do any collecting in St. Paul because they spray, and I can't be using sprayed with pesticide plants as medicine. So let's think about this, and let's think about, why do we need to spray? probably to keep down the native plants and make some of the invasives work. I don't know. But in our mind, let's bring this history forward. Let's get people talking and thinking in new ways.
So let's talk about the ceremony. And I want to make sure I mention one thing here is while the ceremony is going on, no photography, no video recording. That's out of respect for the ceremony. But the ceremony is going to be happening on Monday. Where exactly at?
It's in Bassett Creek Park in Crystal, and it'll be at 10 o'clock Monday morning.
10 a.m. Monday morning. All righty. Lots of things going on. Obviously, we should make sure we mention the membership. People can easily become, I mean, there's a lot of things to go see over the Hennepin History Museum. You got things changing up all the time. Becoming a member is a great way to help support the museum and all the work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, and since we talked, Matt, it's been a minute, as they say. We launched a new membership program this spring where now a donation of any amount makes you a member of the museum and has you invested in what we're doing. So you give us $1, you give us $5, we'll call you a member and we'll give you access to certain events and things like that. Of course, we prefer, if you're able, to give us $75 and then you can get our magazine, you can get access to more things. But yeah, we are encouraging anyone and everyone who are interested in the work we're doing to join in and help us keep it going.
As a person who is a $75 member of the Hennepin History Museum, I encourage you to do it. The magazine alone is 100% worth it. It is an absolutely fantastic magazine. Plus, it is a great little museum there in Minneapolis doing a lot of things that the other museums are not doing, which I think is incredibly important, like the water blessing ceremony, as well as also, you know, just some of the fun things that you're doing, whether it's with the puppets or with the cemeteries. Lots going on over there. Hennepin History Museum, once again, where is it located at if someone wants to stop on in?
2303 3rd Avenue South, half a block away from Minneapolis Institute of Art.
And I'll link to all the social media pages a little bit later on. John Crippen, the executive director over there. John, as always, great to chat with you. Good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you too. Let's do this more often.
We'll have you back before too long. John Crippen, kind enough to join us. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Wednesday.
Cool. Hey, Matt, are you still there?
When addiction takes hold, it's easy to feel like no one can help. But you're not in this alone. For 75 years, Hazelden Betty Ford has been at the forefront of addiction and mental health care, evolving treatment, reimagining recovery, and breaking through barriers to help families everywhere find healing. So please reach out at 855-489-2383. Help is here. Sponsored by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation and aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
Twin Cities Con returns to the Minneapolis Convention Center for the 4th year, November 8th through 10th. Twin Cities Con is a celebration of comics, toys, TV, film, art, cosplay, games, and all things nerdy. There is nothing like Twin Cities Con. It's also a family-friendly event where you can meet your favorite celebrities, browse the vendor hall and artist alley for the coolest merch, watch celebrity Q&As, and even more. Twin Cities Con is bigger and better than ever before. Come see from Star Wars the Emperor himself, Ian McDermott, along with Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, John DiMaggio, who is Bender from Futurama, WWE Hall of Fame wrestler Sting, and Sunday only Grant Gustin from The Flash and Glee, plus more guests to be announced. 3 days of action-packed fun is in the heart of Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Tickets start at $40. Kids tickets are just $8 for the entire weekend. VIP tickets also available, including a 3-day weekend pass, plus some really cool VIP perks. Buy your tickets and get more information at TwinCitiesCon.com.
This Halloween, Open Eye Theater casts a spell on audiences with Broomstick, starring Twin Cities' favorite Cheryl Willis in an electrifying solo performance as a village witch with dark secrets. Her haunting tale of love, loss, and hair-raising vengeance she wreaks upon those who have crossed her will leave you breathless. Laugh, scream, and experience a spine-tingling Halloween adventure. Broomstick runs October 10th through the 31st. Get tickets at openeyetheater.org.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. I know a lot of people are making hay about the story of the 6 kids aged 11 to 14 who went on a 2-hour armed robbery spree in Minneapolis involving stolen vehicles, ending with their capture after 2 crashes. The suspects, 3 boys, 11, 12, and 13, and 2 14-year-old girls and a 12-year-old girl, were treated at local hospitals following the crash. The 12-year-old boy has multiple contacts with Minneapolis police, said Chief Brian O'Hara. The fact that I see this activity continuing with children so young is, despite all of our efforts, is incredibly frustrating and highlights the urgent need for action, a statement from O'Hara read. At the end of that story, by the way, and it was interesting, they talk about this because I want to make sure as we talk about O'Hara and Moriarty and kind of the fight there, they both make very good points at the end of the story about these kids. I had all the anti-theft stuff on it. So the woman teaches teenagers who asked their name not to be published because she's a crime victim. I even had a steering wheel lock on it. In the wake of the 10-year-old's arrest, O'Hara blasted a state law set to take an effect in 2026 that raises the minimum age of delinquency from 10 to 13. He encouraged people to call their state representatives and ask that they reverse the law before it kicks in, simply as a matter of public safety. I don't disagree with that. And I understand you say to yourself, but Matt, it's a 10-year-old. And I get that. But if the 10-year-old has a 2-year rap sheet and nothing seems to be working, giving them a stern wagging of the finger clearly is not helping. But here's where County Attorney Mary Moriarty makes this point. In a statement Friday following the chief's comments, said, "We are facing an urgent crisis in our community related to a small group of children who are not competent to stand trial in the juvenile justice system, but who cannot safely be at home. What we need is clear residential replacements for varying levels of security of our community." I'm not against that idea either, because as much as it's easy for a conservative to scream at a 10-year-old and say, they're the problem, lock them up for life. The reality is there's a parent that's doing a real crap freaking job here. And throwing your hands in the air after the cops come to your door after the 6th time and saying, what am I supposed to do? Well, then at that point, I think the state should step in and say, well, then you can't get this child under control. We're going to try to put them in an environment where they can be put under some level of control. And frankly, I think that's, I'm sorry. I think you have to look at both. I think that you cannot just raise the area. If these these gangs or whatever is involved is looking to find 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, knowing there's not going to be any punishment, having a kid who's 11 years old with a 3-year-old rap sheet is not something where you just sort of say, well, that's not a problem. It's clearly an effing problem. But at the same time, you have to look at the situation that the family's in, because if the parents are refusing to basically do anything to stop their child from being a menace to society, well, then maybe we need to get that child out of that home and into a different environment where they might actually have some consequences for their actions and a better path at life that doesn't involve jail cells. Ta-da! Nice job, O'Hara. Nice job, Moriarty. Compromise. I'm actually for both solutions on that. I'm not against that. Sometimes the best solutions do have both sides. The other crime thing I want to mention, the teen allegedly behind the 2023 mass shooting in Minneapolis punk show that left 1 dead and injured 6 others, will be tried as an adult in Hennepin County Court. Dominic Burris, 18 of Hinckley. I don't know why we don't talk more about Hinckley sending down their worst into our city, and they're opening fire on a group which seems to be about hate. He's facing 7 felony charges, including second-degree murder for the killing of Nicholas August Golden, 35. He was initially arrested and charged in April as a juvenile due to being a minor at the time of the shooting, but the courts have decided on Monday to have him face trial as an adult. Another 17-year-old, Cyril E. Boyd, was arrested in aiding and abetting the shooting, but remains in juvenile court. The shooting took place August 11th during a concert held in a DIY punk house outside the East Phillips neighborhood known as Nudieland. According to the charges, shots were fired in the backyard of the punk house on the 2200 block of 16th Avenue South. When officers arrived, they found Golden and 6 other people suffering from gunshot wounds. The mass shooting occurred as a local band was finishing a concert with a crowd of 30 to 50 people. According to witnesses, a majority of the people at the concert were part of the LGBTQ plus community and had not recognized Burris or Boyd, were both allegedly making homophobic comments about the community before the shooting. They did track them down through surveillance cameras and were able to get the arrest. I wholeheartedly throw this guy in jail. I mean, these bigot that comes into our town and starts firing rounds just because he doesn't like certain people. That person needs to go to jail for a long, long time. And frankly, I'm kind of hoping you revisit the other guy and maybe try him as an adult too. And Hinckley, get your, try that in a small town. Well, get your people under control up there. Thanks for all the well wishes. I do appreciate everyone that's reached out since the beginning of the show. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. Till tomorrow. See ya.
At Better Futures Minnesota, we support Minnesota's environment by working towards zero waste and the transformation of the lives of men